Hey there. So this video is part of a explanatory part of the project where I basically go through let's say the entirety of the project throughout the assets to the files, textures, and whatnot to try and elaborate what this project took to make, why did I do it, and just to see what you get when you buy the $1 assets. So let's get on with it. So first screen here is basically the starting point of the video, if you saw, and this angle is the exact reason why I decided to make this project, because the reference which I have right here, this was the reference. I found this on the ArtStation Twitter page. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen camera. The ArtStation Twitter page, which is I think a feed of images, something looks good, and it just caught my eye, and that's the moment when I said, yeah, I'm gonna recreate that. In general, there is a bigger idea of what to do with it. I had like about 20 to 30 reference images ready to go with the project, but in the end, this is the only one that I needed. So now, what were the let's just go through this. So it is made in Unreal Engine 5, and basically it's using Lumen and Nanite. If you need explanation what this is, basically Lumen, everything is naturally lit and real time, no baked lighting, and Lumen basically means real-time retopology. So if I take the light that I have here, it's gonna auto update the entire level, and this is the only light source in the level. Now let's do the Nanite visualization. Let's do triangles. Ooh, stuttering. Oh, it doesn't like that. Okay. Basically, this project started, as I said, with the reference image, and I wanted to go a bit deeper and see what I can do with Unreal Engine 5. So, zero baked lighting, zero topology. So this was basically what I put it inside the game engine, was straight out of Blender. Now let's go for a tour around this. So as you can see, let's make it bigger. So the original part was, dude, it doesn't like this. No, it doesn't. Oh, no, let's not kill the computer. The original part was from the reference image, but in order to make a level usable, you kind of have to fill it up with something. So I basically used the references, or I used the window as a reference to have an idea of how big the space actually is, and I placed the light. So I played around with it, and I found a position, or let's say scale, of the environment that I liked. But it's not exactly like a one-to-one copy. I noticed that it's stuttering on this thing, but it's not stuttering for me. Doesn't matter. So I had to recreate a big portion of the environment without knowing what it actually looks like. And with the angle being like this, after I did the initial environment with the windows, I noticed there were some lines in a reference that weren't in mind, so I had to figure out what to do with it. So I put these flagpoles in. As the positioning was very systematic, as originally I thought maybe those would be antennas placed around the perimeter here, or something farther away. But the way Lumen works, it didn't work that well, and it turns out they would be very, very big, like humongous, giant construction pieces. So I thought, okay, flags would work for this. So the other problem was, where are they positioned? Camera. So I had to do a bottom portion of it. So I thought initially, let me see if I can grab my references. This is all gonna be one take. Give me a moment. Let me just switch the camera. No. Oh, very professional. Very professional. How do you move this? Oh. This is very, very not professional. Anywho. Wait. I'm glad you're enjoying this. References. Okay. Let's see. References. Originally, I wanted to do something like a lower level entrance. So maybe like using this on the bottom here, maybe like cars will go in, or on even lower level, something along the lines, if I have it here, like maybe a tunnel. Oh, I didn't see. Basically a door that goes by, or a tunnel that is here. Or what else did I have here? Or maybe some stairs, like a pathway, or even like a street full of vendors. I don't see the main image that I found references this. Anywho, but in the end I figured out that would be a lot of work for nothing and not even interesting. So I decided to make this building have a lower street level. It's kind of like some of those high-tech Japanese cities where the train goes through a building or around or above or on it. So I thought, why not make it go under the building? And it's built this way intentionally. So this could be like sort of a street, like one of those big monumental areas where the flags were there originally. This was a walking area, like a path, and the building just got put above it just because there's not enough space. So the way the flagpoles were constructed, basically just some small supports, and these things are quite big, and they're made to be like 3-piece things. So like one piece is here, one piece here, and top is a flag. And then the crosswalks. This is very important because I wanted to have an area be walkable. So I thought, okay, so the middle part, I put these pillars as support very late, at the very late stage. But you have to kind of like, okay, not walk here. So how can I do it? I'm gonna put a bunch of railings, and then you're gonna walk from one end to the other with a separator in between. And of course I wasn't sure this is going to be a two-way or a one-way, so I basically just put lights on each side. And yeah, basically I wanted to make this as uninteresting as possible, but at the same time interesting. So when you look at this, it's basically red. Red is everything that you're interested in. And white is everything that you're not interested in. It's basically you're looking at the red. White is not even interesting. You're like, oh, red, it's divided, but your eye is always following this. So I thought, let's put a lighter red or pink, orange-y tone to this. So, you know, you can either go to it or it's at least interesting. And it kind of represents an area where you can walk. So at this point in time, I kind of figured out, okay, I'm doing something more Mirror's Edgy, like the previous one that I did, like the Mirror's Edge inspired hallway. I should have called that Liminal Space, but Mirror's Edge is much more marketable. And yeah, that's how the project evolved. Now originally, here I had full of doors, like door, because what I could see from the reference is that all of these things were full of doors, and yet on this angle here there were no doors. It was basically like maybe this door and this door, but you couldn't really tell. So I guess those were like hotel rooms, so I kind of had to like clear it up. and they're all numbered, so I thought like, okay, so this is probably the 4th floor and the 5th and the 6th, and then it ends. Did I close the reference? Yes, it did. Let's open it up again. So you can see that there is a door here, there's a door here, and there are a bunch of them. And it's, of course, it's not the same. It's a little bit smaller, but when you're working with something like this, you don't really notice a lot of these things. I mean, it's just make it and send it. So yeah, and I also actually you see that the floor actually ends on the 6th. I didn't know that until now. Oopsie. And there's a ceiling here. The ceiling is flat, it's much higher, and I kind of use that for reference. So if I'm not mistaken, it's 3.5 meters to 4 meters high. So it's very walkable. And this is 1 meter high. And I wanted to do the grates that are here, which I guess hide the cables, and then have the pipes and the holder supports here. This didn't look good, so this was changed. And these pipes are good looking, but I beefed them up a bit, because why not? Now, as things were moving on, I noticed, wait, these are not supports, these are actually lights. So you can actually see these are actual lights, and I wasn't sure if this is going to be a day or night scene or both. Let's select this. So I actually made this a separate material in case I needed it to emit some lighting. And as you can see, here's the material. It's a very basic, like just very basic inputs. And as you can see, it looks much brighter, to a certain point nicer, but I just decided no, I'm just keep it as it is, although we can still make nighttime out of it. Actually, let's just leave it. Let's just leave it as it is. Does this go reverse? No, it doesn't. Helium tube. Oh, sorry, this is very interesting. Or uninteresting. Again, one take. I went through the project. So, what else is there? Oh, of course, starting right now. Recording video really helps. So, all these doors are numbered individually, hand numbered, which was a bit of a pain, especially the one door that was here was 420, I think. Because this is 9. Yeah, it ends here, and this one here was 420 because it started here and goes along circles. The flags are a flat color, and to have the flags move, I basically just have a wind modifier and the flags set up as cloth with physics. And that's all to it, no code. What else? Oh, this here, as you can see, there's a bunch of buildings here on the bottom. You can't really see them, but the specific reason for these buildings is because everything is physically rendered, or let's say the bounces of the light are physically accurate. These buildings are here to obscure the light in such a way, like, okay, let's say this here is a road, so of course it's going to be straight up, and then there's going to be a bridge, underpass, something, so light goes through here as well through here. But here there we have like apartments, or let's say stands or something, like whatever. There's a lot of light blocking. And you think like it's probably not going to affect it much, but if I select these things here, and if I delete them, you can see there's just a little bit more light that went through this. If you go back, it still changed a little bit, and that's enough to notice. Now, I didn't really think too much how to place it. Just like theoretical, okay, bridge here, thing there, construction there, various materials. So like this could be a glass building, reflective, concrete, blah blah blah. So let's delete everything, and you can see it just gets so much broader, and I'm not gonna say unrealistic, but it's just there's just light coming from everywhere, and this is what I had to figure out working with Lumen. Yeah, there's nothing on the top, and all these textures, if I remember correctly, you can't really make them double-sided. I think that's still a bug or a feature in production in Unreal. I think initially it crashed or made everything black, dark, so all these textures are basically double-sided, are mesh double-sided, but light still goes through these parts, which are flat. So in order to fix this, I put up a one-sided, basically plane, to block the light from each side, as well from the top and certain sections, because here I actually wanted there to be less light again. And if I, let's say, wait a few seconds, if I delete this, oh, actually no, there's not much of a difference. Before there was a lot more of a difference before I added these things, but doesn't matter. And you can see from here it's see-through, from here it's not. Now I also made the cinematics sequence master. So the video in the beginning, or let's say on my ArtStation that you saw, is basically made entirely in Unreal. There's 0 cuts, just camera jumps and fade-ins and fade-outs. So let's go to camera actor 1. Let's put this on the side. As you can see, it's all on tracks. There's nothing special about it, just location, camera location, rotation, and these symbolize that it's a automatic curve, while these symbolize a straight up movement, or like a vector movement, as in no padding. So if you wanted to tweak around with the cameras, you can do this as well, and even render it in whatever quality you want. But there's a different problem. Within Unreal right now, there is a bug that if you're at a certain angle, Lumen becomes twitchy. So if my camera angle is a bit finicky at times, it's because I wanted to avoid the twitches. Especially, I think I was somewhere like this. As you can see, it's quite twitchy here. Well, not as much in the video. It's smooth on my screen. Also, rendering. If you render it at a higher quality, let's say 4K, my computer can render it, but there was like very visual differences, that the pop-in of the post effect and certain light changes. So that's why the video is in HD only, but you don't need more than that. These are just example projects and you can play around with them yourself. As for the assets, they're all here. Materials. These are all the various materials. Probably some were used in incorrect ways or in areas which you wouldn't expect. And the models themselves are all here. And the textures are neatly organized. Now let's go into Blender. When it decides to open. Hotel Courtyard Master, as you can see, it was meant to be a hotel. It really doesn't like recording video and Unreal in the background. So let's just close it because we don't need it anymore. Don't save. So now, here we have the main file. The main file which I used to make this environment. It's set up into three collections. So if you press 1, you get to the, let's say, test and modularity folder. If you press 2, you get into the final phase, and 3 was just used for testing. So what does this mean? So number one, let's start with 2. Here, these are all the finalized files that I used in the project. So if you, theoretically, if you took all of these files and some extra ones for reference, took all these files, put them in Unreal, use the textures that I supplied, you could basically create a scene one-to-one exactly, but there's no need. It is here for you to look at how these things are made, how the scales are made, basically everything, and even some, let's say, non-organized arrays. And as you're gonna see, it's very non-retopologized. It's just straight up millions of polygons. As it says here, 4.8 million polygons. Now, so how some things were made, here we can see with array links. Basically, a lot of the times I just made one prop, UV'd it, gave it a texture, and then just used arrays to position them correctly. So let's say I needed array links here and here, so I set up an array to put them in certain positions. Of course, there were double arrays, and some things were changed in the process and not saved, but you get 99% of the project here. Now for the piece de resistance, the building itself. As I said, the picture itself, the reference, the image, was the idea for the project, but as I started working on it, I noticed that this could basically be another good experiment for modularity. I did, I think, 3 or 4 pieces before this, and each one of them had some parts modular, but I wanted to go a bit deeper and a bit harder. So the building here, as you can see, let's just separate it out, is an array. This is the entire part of the building. It is basically one piece, which I duplicated, put it on another floor, and then I added an array to have more pieces, basically floors. I set them up in a curve, and then just added floors to them. So now you're asking, why didn't I just make one of these and just made it separate, so that, let's say, an array just for a bottom one, and then duplicate an array and offset it? I could. I honestly could. But I saw this as being a little bit easier, but in the end it doesn't matter because it's a mesh. And I just think it's a lot more interesting. Because it just shows you the possibilities of what you can do. No, this curve is not the best as in terms of positioning and or use. I'm still not 100% familiar how curves work, but there was a lot of finicky playing going on here because you had to figure out where you actually want it, and here the perfect one was the z-axis. We can actually go here. And basically arrays were used for basically everything, for these circles on the doors, door handles, doors, lights, grids. Basically everything here is on a curve, and everything is an array and additionally on a curve. Of course I might have just flattened it, but if you have the basic knowledge of arrays and curves, even if not, I think you can still figure this out. So yeah, this was basically to try and overwhelm Unreal with as much stupid detail as possible. And I can say that you couldn't. You basically couldn't. At least I couldn't. And I run a 1060 on a Threadripper. Well, that was a bit of a long explanation. Thank you for watching, and if you're interested in the project, you can buy it for $1 or 90 cents European. It's basically to have you, well, to buy me a coffee, or at least half of one, and for you to, well, get 100% of the project that I used in it. Everything except substance files, because, yeah, I can't really share those. But you're gonna get the textures. Well, anyway, again, thanks for watching, and hopefully the next project will be around the corner in a month. So take care now. Bye bye then.